whenever you glue a floor together, you got to use the proper glue. And I'm not saying this is the one that you have to use, but this is a glue that's made for floating wood floors. So what we do on this in this application is we got to determine that the wood can be floated. And then once we determine that, then what we do is we start laying down our rows. And the way we glue them together is we just take a bead of this glue and we put it in the groove. And you don't need a lot. And just have yourself a rag handy just so you can clean up. It is a water-based glue, so there's no problem with that. And you just lock it together, wipe up any excess glue. And I already have all my pieces pre-cut right here, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep gluing here. And I'm going to explain something to you in a minute as I'm doing this. What I did here is, see this tape that I laid out right here? This is for afterwards. And I'll show you why as the video ends. Basically, if you've ever done laminate flooring, it's pretty much the same thing, except the tongue and groove doesn't have to click in, it just slides over. So I have my spacers here that I use. They're locking spacers. I'm just getting everything tight. And what a lot of guys will do is, say this was a big room, like say this room was like 20 by 30, and they're putting down their first row. As they're hitting these boards, they're probably going to open up. So what guys will do is they'll put down tape. They'll tape the joints, they'll tape it this way, and the tape holds it from separating. I'm not going to do that here. I'll show you why. It's such a small area I can control it. Anyway, I put down this tape right here, the Kool Glide tape, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it over it. And I'm not going to do nothing with it right now. It's just kind of sitting there. And I'm going to show you what happens when you move the floor too soon, because this particular glue that I'm using, it takes time to dry. And when you're doing a floating wood floor, a lot of times when guys work on them, they work away from the floor. They don't walk on it as they're working, because what happens is it'll gap. These end joints will separate. This will gap, and as the glue's drying, it becomes thicker. It's harder to close it. And then what happens too is if it does gap, that's it. You got to end up putting it later on or something. So as you're working with it, you want to make sure it stays tight. Now, if I was doing the Kool Glide, once I got to about this point right here, what I would do is I'd melt it and use that to hold it in place. But I'm not doing that right now. I'm just doing the other. So you'll understand in a minute what I'm talking about. So I'm going to keep gluing my grooves. I'm going to lock them into my tongues here. Get this one put together. The Kool Glide was made for carpet. And what it does is this tape that you see here, it melts the tape through the carpet, but it doesn't affect the carpet. It uses like radio frequency waves. It sounds kind of like something from Mars, but it does work. And a lot of guys will use the iron with a thing called utility tape, and that sticks to the ground. So this part right here will stick to the ground, the bottom, and then they'll melt it to get that first row started, instead of nailing it or putting any kind of whatever they do to do that. Like they'll put weight on it, they'll put nails, they'll put two-way tape. Some guys will use like glue gun. A lot of guys will use it for what I'm talking about though. See, as I do this, you can see how the floor keeps moving. I'm gonna keep checking it. These locking spacers are pretty cool. They're made by a company called Bessie. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I do like them. We haven't been really doing too much laminate lately, or LVP or SPC flooring. We've been having a lot of problems with it. I'm just kind of staying away from it. Whenever you have a floor that says, you know, nail, glue, or float, it's kind of up to the homeowner in a way, what they want, but then the installer should be educating them on what's proper. I would say if you ever have a floor where you can float it, and it's over concrete, I would do it, because no matter what you do, you know, like say you have a floor and you test it for for moisture in the concrete, and then there's nothing wrong with it. Well, that doesn't mean that moisture could appear, you know, moisture can appear later. So it doesn't mean that it's immune to that. It's just a status, you know. It's like when you put on Facebook, it says, you know, your status. Well, what's your status today? Are you happy? Are you sad? That concrete could be moisture free that day, but then a year down the road, it could have moisture. And if you put a floating floor down, you're going to put down a moisture barrier, you're going to put down plastic so that floor never touches the concrete. So that's the good thing about having a floor that's floating. You're not relying on that glue to hold it down. Plus you can repair it easier later. And it's actually easier to install, you know. So, this glue does go a long way too. Some of these floors can be a pain in the butt to work with, but well, that's any floor really, if you think about it. So I got one more row to put in. I did a job with this. If you look on my playlist, well actually not the playlist, just the channel, you'll see a job we did where we did about 600 feet of this. And we used the Kool tape, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And it came out really nice. Okay, so there's your floating floor. And say you're in a room, you know, like say it's 20 feet long and it's about whatever wide, but this is going to be your first row, okay? Your first row is going to be something that you can reach, you know, you don't have to walk on or kneel on. So if I'm working from here this way or this way, it doesn't matter. The goal is not to step on the floor or move around on it, because all these gaps right here, they're all going to open up. So now if I was doing this with just glue, which I am, I mean, if I was going to go any further, I'd probably want to stop right here and just go ahead and let all this dry, and then come back later and keep working. Or I could put tape, or I can put straps. The straps are kind of, they could come along, or the kind of straps you see to tie down carpet. or any kind of load you have on your truck, you put them on here and you crank them, right? But in this case, I'm not going to do that. And what I'm going to show you is a way that we came up with to where you can lock this all together and just keep going. You don't have to stop. You don't have to worry about falling on your floor. What I'll probably do is I'll probably speed the video up and show you the end result. But if you notice, I took out all my spacers, okay? And now this floor right here is all together. It's all glued together. If I try to pick it up, look what's going to happen. See how it's all moving? See? It's just going to break. See? It's all going to come apart. It's like an accordion, see? But if I want to actually pick this up, it is possible, and I'll show you in a minute. Watch. I got it all pretty tight. Okay, it's not going to be perfect because I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to show you something. Turn on my iron. I want to melt this together, and I'm going to be able to pick it up. And when you have that in mind, with me being able to pick it up, that also means that I can walk on it, I can bang on it, I can do anything I want. Okay. So what we were doing on this job is we glue everything together. We get to a certain point, and then we Kool glide it, and then we just keep going. And we're crawling on top of this floor. You know, no problem. I need to be able to see my tape on both sides. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to speed the video. So the way I have this now, like I said, it's still a little bit warm. Probably in another maybe 3 or 4 minutes, I'll be able to move it. And it's not going to allow it to open up, and it's not going to allow it to come this way. Okay, if I pick it up, of course it could bend. But if I walk on it, or if I bang it, or if I do anything to it, there's no way it's going to come apart. Because these right here represent tape that would be on the top. So for instance, if I was to take a piece of like duct tape's pretty strong tape, and I was to tape it here and tape it here, tape it here, of course it's not going to move. But then when I take that tape off later, it's going to leave a residue. See, if I put blue tape on, blue tape is not strong enough to hold it, and blue tape still could leave a residue. But this tape that I have on the bottom, it actually, it's a Kool glide tape. It actually has like aluminum in it, or some kind of metal, so it does make it stronger. See? So now this piece right here, all right, it's just about dry. So you can see how I can actually, this tape stuck to the paper a little bit. I got a piece of paper here. A little bit of excess glue there, but I can actually pick this up, drop it down, right? I can hit it, and I can do like I can try to separate it. See, you can do all kinds of stuff to it. It's not going to come apart. There's no way.